Not sure how to use Minecraft Education Edition in your classroom this year? Well, Logic's Minecraft Lesson Library has over 30 lessons from science, math, art, history, coding, and so much more. This library includes lessons with a teacher video guide, student play and pause videos, Minecraft worlds and resources and connections made to all Canadian provincial standards. Bring brand new lessons and Minecraft experts into your classroom and let us help you co-teach your classes. No prep required. Learn more and sign up for free at logicsacademy.com/curriculum. Over 720 coding missions and a 30-day free trial? That's right. Bring coding into your school with RoboGarden, a virtual learning tool equipped to teach coding literacy from scratch. Set deadlines, create weekly challenges, and use easy assessment tools, all while on a free 30-day trial. Educators, don't miss out on this fun, easy way to integrate coding in the class. Learn more at logicsacademy.com/RoboGarden. And now for my amazing conversation about STEM, easy steps to get started with coding with Laura Kennedy. Laura, thank you so much for joining me on the Logics Academy podcast. I'm so excited for our listeners to learn about your story and hear your inspiration that you have in your journey that you've had in education. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to share.
So, Laura, before we dive too deep into easy ways to begin coding, let's tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about who you are and your background in education.
Well, I've been teaching in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I found out that it's 25 years because I just got my 25th year anniversary from the university, Mount St. Vincent University, recently. So that was a marker. I've been 16 years in my present school. And before that, I did substitute teaching all over the place. I did throw a dart at the school board website, and I was at every school, seeing county and city, all elementary. And then I continued that, even though I have been in one school for 16 years, I've been a different grade or a different assignment every year. So that has kind of kept a lot, the bouncing around has actually been good for me. I've enjoyed that. I've gotten a lot of my learning and understanding and connections from being combined teachers, lower elementary, and specialist teachers.
Wow. Congratulations on 25 years. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's so great. So in your journey, and you mentioned, you've been in a lot of schools when you were doing some supply work and some guest work, and now 16 years in your current building, coding. That's a huge topic of conversation. And a lot of educators, as you would know, want to know how to start. And if you've started, what's next for me? So tell us a little bit about your journey in coding and the things that you tend to do in your classrooms.
Sure. Well, it was actually a tweet that was put out by one of our tech team officials here in Nova Scotia, in Halifax here, Mario Ouellette. And he just put, who's going to be involved with Codeorg? So not knowing what it was, I signed up. I'm a leaper. I'm a jumper because I was intrigued with it. So went home that night, got on the Codeorg site, and it was just so simple, easy steps. So it would be, here's one line of code and a little celebration, and now get the skater or the walker or the driver to do the next thing. So how do you push the code, the character a little bit further? And then intermittently there was like those tutorials, or if you got stuck, it wasn't like, okay, you have to figure this out on your own. There's some steps. So I thought, yes, I can bring this to the class tomorrow. And I had I always have wonderful classes. I always said that, but classes who had challenges in many different ways. So it wasn't just looking at how do I serve this particular need or strength or strategy in a student. It was many different ones. So I thought, here's something that we can all kind of work together. And Murphy's Law being what it is, the tech failed. The tech completely, and we tried everything. We had iPads in the classroom, and I had shown the students on the teacher computers through the LCD, and everything miraculously worked. And then we had them in pairs, and the kids were excited about it, sent them all, and it was like error message. Or you had to upload something, or our iPads weren't fully there. So I said, no problem. Let's go to the PCs. We had those kind of lined up out inside. So we sent like 3 or 4 out to the different computers, and they got so far and they crashed and burned. And again, so I thought, nope, we're not giving this up. So I said, everybody, let's sit on the floor. And I had my wireless keyboard sat plunked down in the middle of them. And I said, I'll be the hands. I'm not going to move until you tell me what's the next thing. So we chose, it was Lightbot. That's what got us going. And if there was any, say, personality clashes that happened in the class otherwise, or competitions, all of that melted away. And then so we had some volunteers. What are going to be my steps of code? What do you want Lightbot to do? Where's the directions? So I knew that the student that was chosen had made an error, but I thought, no, I'm just putting in right, left, up, down. And I was sure that 3 or 4 were going to leap on that student and either maybe not be as kind or point that out, and then that would send that student in a tailspin. Not at all. It was positive feedback. It was taken well, and it was like, oh, thanks for that. And I thought, oh my heavens, I need to write this down. Again, lovely children, not setting them anything up, but it was just, this was challenging. It was new. It was frustrating, and so I thought, that's not really the recipe for what this class needs. But it's because they were engaged. They were connected with a challenge. And it wasn't something like, when we fail, we crash and burn. We're going to pick ourselves up and try it again. So I said, look, this is not optimal. You can see all of the challenges we had, but what did we get? What was the whole point? And then I sent them home that night in their agenda. Here's the site we used. You can go try it. Tell your parents. Let them a letter, explain what it was. The next day, these kids ran out. Miss Gandy, here's my certificate. I got so far in this program. I know how to code. I can do this. So I said, okay, we have them hooked. We have them here. We have them ready. And yes, they were playing games. Yes, they were doing directions. It was up, down, left, and right. But it was the life lessons they got from this. And then now we're seeing the math lessons, directionality, and stick-to-itness, all of those things, pair sharing, all of those things. Little brothers and sisters were being involved with this. So then I thought, okay, this was great. This is something in our bag of tricks. But what do you do next? Where does coding go next? So that's where I dove deeper. So what is coding? So we think it's this big, thick textbook. It's directions. Brush your teeth, make a peanut butter sandwiches. It's just the steps you do to take things. So then we think algorithms. So I'm one that thinks, I'm not going to give the kids the big word to confuse them. I'm going to toss algorithm in and use that. Well, it's the steps. And then eventually interchange those words. So now we've got grade 3 students using the word algorithm the same way that a coder is using it. So that's where it started, and then kept investigating Codeorg using that. And then find out what other ways can we code. Or again, when the tech fails, or when the internet is down, or the power was out, well, get the solo cups out, or we'll pretend we're the robots. So the paper version. So it wasn't like the flash in the pan novelty, just let everything light up and beep. It was the bigger lesson underneath it all.
And
in a
so
nutshell.
many great stories there about how you started. And you hit it on the head there with, the students were excited. They came back with success stories and being able to do something. And something you mentioned, which is, we talk about the word coding. It's a lot of people will get like chills or cringe and be like, oh, I have no idea. That's tech stuff. I don't want to do that. But you mentioned like low-tech coding. So let's dive into that a little bit. What kind of examples do you do? Because, some schools, some teachers are not as fortunate at having devices or robots, but they want them. They want to get to that point. And the convincing story is, look what my students can do in basic coding. So what is that? What kind of examples do you have of? I'm really interested in your solo cup stories. What kind of examples do you have for that?
Well, absolutely. We found connections everywhere. So we were going to music that week, and we had to go down a different staircase for some reason. There was somebody working on the staircase, so we had to move. So we said, well, we have to go out to the right and down, and the kids lit up. This is code, and we had to find another way. And then even messages, you get into the secret coding or have that circle cipher thing. But again, diving into the code.org, I thought, okay, well, what else will we do? So I did see the solo cup example. So it was the stacking cups. So then we got into the idea of like a pop machine or a vending machine. Like, how would that make it all the way down? How do they know when you push, G7 that you're getting what you're getting? So the students really had to work together. It was a collaboration and perseverance that came from that. But I agree wholeheartedly with you that all schools aren't created the same. Funding, we try to have rollouts to make everything at least, somewhat, get some materials and somewhat in everybody's hands. But, a shower curtain or a piece of chart paper that has a grid on it, and, a little one of those little toys you get in a Happy Meal, or a little fuzzy or a little stuffy, bring those in, put it on the grid. And how are we going to get, this character or a story that they're reading in the class? How do we get, you know, um, whether it's, a turtle or something like this from this point, or, Red Riding Hood through the forest. So now they're thinking. So now that they're bringing creativity and they're creating the piece. So it's really anything. Or again, how do we move our bodies? So you can't go, left out here, or the desks, if you have desks or tables or chairs, how are we going to move something? And this could go into like a smaller, just a little grid on a piece of letter size paper where they have to move something here. So it's portable, it's quick, it's easy, and everybody can do it. So sometimes we get hung up on the material needs, and really it's the concept behind it.
That's huge. I love every statement you made there, because it's right on. Sometimes we think, well, I don't have iPads or tablets, so I can't do this. But you're absolutely right. I mentioned a shower curtain, or putting a grid on the floor, or whatever it might be, to get that conversation started and get that kind of knowledge base, that foundation, so that when you do get the technology, that you're not starting from ground zero. You're building up from something that you already have. And so, okay, so you've mentioned Code.org a few times. Is that what you would suggest for teachers if they were like just starting with coding? Like they're just kind of hitting the ground running. They're hearing this podcast, or think, okay, I'm going to start coding with whatever grade I'm teaching. Is that what you would suggest as a great starting point for them?
It is. It's ready made. It's tangible. It's easy. Anybody really can get on and do the steps. It's something that you can encourage. Go home and do this with your family, or call Nana and Grampy and do it with them. And then it's creating this whole community spirit, because the tutorials, the videos they have, the step-by-step pieces that you have really lead to instant success. And or as we talked about before, perseverance through it. It's not something that's one and done. We're done with this, because then now they're creating dances. There's one thing that they can do that one, or it's maybe they can be tied into, like, say, movie characters. That's just one piece, but now they're connecting with those characters. And the trick is once you have drag and drop down pat, you see that, hey, that's the same as this program. Now, if you brought that into Scratch or Makey or microbits, all of those things, it's like, oh, when start, that was the same thing before. So you start seeing a lot of repetition and pattern. And I think sometimes when we do patterning in math, the grade 1 or so, you're doing red, blue, or you're doing, cat, dog, or 1, 2 ABA patterns. But we don't want to get beyond that one. So the students are saying, oh, hey, patterns are in an experience that I've had, and I know the steps to do that. And now we're rounding the bases with algorithm. And then I was able to bring that conversation into when we were doing, the traditional stacking math. We've pulled all that apart prior. We've done the numbers, but we said, this is an algorithm. These are the steps. And if you didn't know what the steps meant, then you're just blindly doing something, you can't understand it. And if you're doing, triple digit addition with regrouping or subtraction, whatever, you're not stuck, because you know where you're going. So it's really, everything is doing the groundwork first. So then eventually you're making the comparisons and things transfer over. So like you said, if you didn't really have all the tech tools, the digital tech tools, you're working with maybe, fuzzballs and pom-poms and the little grid paper, but then all that transfers over when you do get, your iPad, your say Spheros or whatever. You're using the same tools, the same muscles, the same learning, and it translates. That's what we want students to do. We don't want them to memorize or regurgitate something. You can memorize facts or know the 3 forms of rocks, but can you translate that onto the bigger picture? So that's really, the secret sauce of everything that we're doing. But I think coming back to the non-digital, it's when they create something, whether they're using chenille sticks or clay, they're creating the content, they're molding it, they're part of it, and then they bring that over. There's the personalization, there's characterization, and now it's their own. So the more they have hands-on, the more they're invested, and the more they have a purpose for this.
Absolutely. And hands-on and finding the purpose is key to that quality education. Now let's go on the flip side of this, because we may have listeners who have the tech or are looking for the next tech. So I have a twofold question. One being, what are some strategies that you've used to help fund the tools that you may have in your classroom? And then the follow-up to that are, what are tools that you think everyone should invest in because they super help you with coding in your classroom?
Right. Well, my regional center of education is fabulous for rolling out different pieces. So all schools would have gotten Bebots, all schools would have gotten Spheros, and I can say I am quite blessed and very fortunate to be in a particular school that does have certain fundraising for these extra pieces, and I know how fortunate and lucky I am to be in that situation, because that doesn't happen everywhere. So I do have my hands on a lot of tech. You know what I really have to say, Twitter is not that I'm funded by anybody on Twitter or any program, but I reach out to a lot of tech people and authors and know them. Cold shout outs actually work. And so I'm connected with a lot of, as I say, kind of the biggies. And so I was able to see microbits before they were even rolled out in Canada. And then, some of the Meta labs, I was able to see that. And then either, very fortunate to win them, or, having some products donated to the school. So that's one part of it. Or definitely, reaching out to see if somebody can, loan one to see what it is. And then maybe your PTA or your SAC, your school board would say, yeah, this was something that they're going to use, and do it. But it's one of those ones, if you're getting it for getting its sake to have it in the cover of the class, it's not going to be used. It has to be something that's out. And definitely things have to be, locked away for security purposes, but things have to be accessible and out and not in a dusty closet. So that's the other one, is some schools will have these things and not really have the training or PD or understand how to use them, or the time, how do we do it? So the piece here is there's, math coaches and literacy coaches all over the places. The vision I have is a STEM integrational specialist. So somebody that can come in and say, you may not know what a Bbot is or what a microbit is. So do a little, a tutorial lesson, go do 2 or 3, have the students connect with it, and then say, okay, this is where I would use this. So it's kind of a filtering approach. So Sphero has a fabulous educator site, but there's hundreds. The rabbit hole that you can go down in Sphero is just amazing. So it would be, let's curate some of those pieces. What would be good for a grade 1 class? Not that they couldn't use other ones, but here's something that's connected to curriculum specifically, because there's always times that you can find something to do for the communication piece, but we do need to have this link to curriculum. So we do know how to use coding, but now patterning. We're going to do microbits and code a program that will take numbers by 2s, and then when you click another button, let's see, starting by 2, counting by 3. So what's the difference in those things? So they can actually see it and feel it. And we're part of that one. So that's a big piece. But so definitely, Spheros, anything that rolls and moves and beeps and clicks, and all of these ones also, you can record your voice. And the beautiful thing about this is that you can now record in any language and have it say back. So that's creating the whole community piece that nobody's left out. And then someone who may have some academic needs or some physical needs and adjustments, they're able to do this. So it's clicking an iPad program or watching it go. They can have a hand in this. So this is as inclusive as it gets.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned some great ones, and the versatility of these tools, right, is huge, and their durability. For example, I've used a lot of Dash and Dots, and they're so durable. I think that's a huge one for us. When you spend money, to all of our listeners and our viewers out there, if you're going to spend money on a tool that you want to use in the classroom, we mentioned, Laura, locking them away, make sure they're safe. But at the same time, you don't want to think, oh no, don't roll it too hard, it's going to break, right? That's obviously something we always think about, because money is precious when it comes in education. So durability is huge.
If it's precious, it belongs in a museum. The first time I got the Spheros out, I purposely rolled it down the stairs, and administrator came out, and I said, no, this is good. This is a good thing, because in the commercial, they roll it down the cement stairs. But free apps like the stop motion app and Chatterpix, there is so much bang for the buck in Chatterpix, and it's one of those easy, quick ones that just invites everybody. And once you have that, you feel like, oh, I can do this one. Both students, and the trick is this: students are more amenable to this. More so than maybe adults, because we're worried, like, I have to know everything about it. Am I going to break the buttons? Where students go click, click, click. So that's the other message, is go part and parcel. We don't have to know everything. It's like, let's put the box down, the wires. What does this do? Let's click this. So it's cause and effect, and be able to walk away and say, well, we got this far and we don't know. We have to go do some more research or ask people. So it's not like I have egg on my face because I stood in front of kids and something didn't work. It has to be like, we're all human. We're all figuring this out, and realize that the students have a piece in this too. And then that creates leadership. And there's your other piece of communication. So, Mathtagon site, those are free things that uplift what you're doing. It's the creating a piece. And what I like about microbit, although I have a lot of microbits and Scratch devices in a couple of different forms, they have online modulators. So the microbit one, it's online. You don't have to have it in your hand. It is nice to have in your hand, but you can see with the module that it's right there on the screen. And so is Makey, and now they have Makey music, which is phenomenal. So students can create their story and then use the Makey music or the Chrome Music Lab, and now create a soundtrack that goes with their story, green screen or stop motion, all of those things. And let's just shove all of this together.
You've mentioned so many amazing tools for our listeners and our viewers in our short time together. But I don't want to keep you too long. I know our time is precious sometimes too as well. So I want to ask you, Laura, what are your top 3 pieces of advice for our listeners or our viewers who are looking to get started with EdTech in their classroom? It's probably hard to narrow it down to 3, but what would be your top 3 that you think you would tell someone?
Usually that would be a hard one. But oddly enough, I have boiled down to 3 words: copy, create, change. Now, those aren't mine. I've heard this on a podcast, but I think that's what I've done. I've got on Twitter. I've seen things. Don't be afraid. Just take that recipe and just copy it right in, because that takes away the fear of it all. So, hey, that worked. So actually do that. And then you can take a piece and create something with that. Or, same as a recipe. You may, turf out one item and put something in or add something in. And then now you're creating the next piece. You're going to change that and make it your own or go the next level. So those are the 3 pieces. And don't be afraid of it. Something like CoSpaces could look daunting, but once you get in it, it's fabulous, and there's so much there. The newest one for me is Boreal Tales, and I think I can go forever and a day just on that one. And it very much, it marries what we've done before, something with CoSpaces and Scratch and all those ones. And then the mother of them all, Flipgrid. I can't be remiss with that. Flipgrid is really the never fail fudge. It's the one that a lot of people should start with.
Amazing. And what words of advice? Copy, create, change, because that is a great way to start for someone, because you hit the nail on the head, which is sometimes you see someone doing something, just try that, right? See if that works for you, and see if that works in your classroom with your students. And what better way than maybe start by following Laura on Twitter at LKennedy37. We'll put that in the show notes, because Laura, you share amazing things on Twitter as well, and you share the great things that are happening in your classroom. You are an inspiration to EdTech and in implementing EdTech in your classroom. So I encourage all of our listeners and all of our viewers to follow Laura to see the amazing things that she's doing. And don't forget, follow Logix Academy on all social media platforms at Logix Academy and to see the amazing things that educators are doing across the country. As always, we thank you, Laura, for joining us on the show. And don't forget, let's inspire innovation across the nation.